would be good. All right, so we're working on color variations on our type design. And I split it into two. So I took my black type layer, which is this. I've already done a screen grab of that. That's my first requirement for the assignment. So if I wanted to turn that in, I would go to assignment 6, go to my project, and this is actually the first requirement. And as long as it shows your black vector type, you can include it with your poster layout or not. So I'll show you. So requirement 1 is your black vector type design, sometimes called a solution. And mine looks like this. Mine actually has a full color illustration that's all finished in it. It has a full color background. But what actually matters for this step is just black type that you have customized. And I like doing a screen grab just for these initial steps because I don't have to shrink it so much. It doesn't have to take so much memory within Canvas. So that's the first requirement. What's another way you could post that requirement? Well, as seen here, you could turn off everything except for the black type, right? Because that's all that we're paying attention to. This black type was done as an outline that then they later fill with color. But I'm going to show you ways that we can even convert this into an outline. So the next step is the color text. And the color text, I needed the background to start to get a sense of how the coloring would work. So I'm working kind of backwards here. There we go. And first I have a layer where I'm just playing with the offset, the stroke behind it. And then I have a layer on top of that where I'm playing with the color fill. And now I can turn these things on and off and adjust them as needed. Yeah. So that it reads cleanly, both up close and far away, and leads the eye where I want it. And then sometimes when you do things like add a stroke or add an offset, you see that? Like little things will happen that annoy you, and then you have to fix them. But as long as you always keep at least one layer as a vector, so honestly, the easiest way to fix that little difference there in the corners of the A, because I like the black shadow, but I just don't like it right there. That's distracting. So what I'm going to do on this layer, the one that's giving me that, is I'm actually going to rasterize the layer style. So it means all of those are now pixels I can modify, which means on that layer I can simply taper that off. So I'll take that black. Yeah, I'll just do it this way with my brush. And we're just doing little touch-ups here at 100%. What am I missing? There we go. I just had something selected somewhere. And I can just soften that. And then I can do it with white as well. And trim it. And where else was that happening? Right there. So sometimes when you layer vectors on vectors and you add effects on effects. Little tiny touch-ups might be necessary, and it's fine to rasterize them as long as you still have a smart object vector type there somewhere, which allows you to scale it when needed. All right. So now this is my color text treatment. But in order to post that to Canvas, I'm going to turn off the background. Right, so I can layer, this group is 3 different layers. Just to remind you, it is a fill layer, a gradient layer, and then a composited in texture layer, right? All with different blending modes and different opacities. I might as well rasterize this gradient. I think I actually already did rasterize this gradient, so it's all good. And then the white behind it is 17 by 21 inches, and it gives me my border. All right. Now, what if I want an actual border, an interior border, besides just a bleed edge? What I can do is duplicate that background and then merge it all together. Merge the group into one rasterized layer, and then add a layer style to that with its own stroke. So I'm going to use a black stroke, or maybe like a dark blue. There we go. And now I have an internal edge, and I'm going to do it on the inside. Now what if I want something even fancier? Though I think that looks pretty good. This is where extra research can go in. But before I do that, I'm just going to post my color. So to do that, I'm going to, let's see, duplicate the background. This is just to have something easy to post. Whoops. I got to do it again. Double click. Give it a stroke. And change that stroke to the dark blue. Kind of a grayish dark blue, and then put it on the inside. Yes, okay. So now I'm also going to give it a color overlay of just white, just for the time being. Then I'll turn it off. But this is to showcase my color type solution as separate from my finished poster. So I'm just going to do a screen grab of this. Command-Shift-4. Get that outside edge so I see the outside dimensions of the poster and the internal border. I'm just trying to be very, very clear. And now I post the second requirement, which is the color variation on the type design. Now it's done to a vector, but it is using layer styles. Bring that in. And then you put all the components together for your finished poster for requirement number 3. And this is the final poster design and layout, which means you are set on the arrangement of everything. So, am I set on the arrangement of everything? You want to look at it not just from a distance, especially if you're using the dissolve texture, which I like. You want to look at it up close. Going to see how it's working. Haha, little things. Actually, I'm fine with it, but I'll fix it anyway. Soften it up there. This is all at resolution, right? Just these things that will bug me when I pay $5 to print this on the largest piece of paper. I don't mind that offset there. And I love how clean that vector is. Okay. I don't mind that. Well, yeah, I do kind of mind that one there. So even though this was just solid black type, you can see how you can turn it into outlines and strokes and fills with drop shadows, etc. Now the last thing I might want to add for my finished poster is if I look at my folder, I found some Art Nouveau borders, these kind of things that I could use to go with it, kind of columns. So I could try bringing those in. I think they're going to be a little overkill. But the way poster borders work is you should be able to adapt them to your project. And maybe even by having borders, it gives you the option to break the borders, which is really fun. Comic books do all the time. You know, having those wings come off the side. Let's see, I think I want to push it up just a little bit. Hold down Shift. There we go. And then pull this up so it's not interfering with the text so much. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to run it behind everything except the background. And now I'm going to play with its layer styles, right? It's a smart object, but I can still do layer styles to it. So I can do things like fill it with a color. Maybe I want something like this. And then I can play with how opaque it is, right? I can set it to dissolve, get that texture to it. And I can change its blending mode. I like overlay, but I don't like what it's doing to the edges there. So that could be fixed. Yeah, just really subtle. So maybe instead of setting it to overlay, just setting it to normal, just taking its opacity down a little bit. And then I think, do I want it with it or without it? Right. I can do other things like add a stroke to it. Make that stroke maybe a little bit more colorful. And you can just play with these kind of variations forever. And that's what makes design pretty fun, because you have all this power of variation at your disposal all the time. All right, let's see.